Self-love is the best love. I completely agree. And I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit too, because something I've noticed, and it's not a bad thing, don't get me wrong, it's just something I've observed, is a lot of times whenever people start healing their relationships, because we go throughout our lives and, we kind of repeat whatever patterns that we've had or whatever lessons we've started to learn. The first step I see is a lot of like defensiveness, where it's like, oh, they're a narcissist, or they're a terrible person and I need to stay away from people like that. Which we absolutely should. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you should like date narcissists or anything like that. But I do think that maybe the word narcissist is a little bit like overused, especially in the spiritual community, because it's kind of all like, I'm this perfect empath and narcissists have just fed on me my entire life. There's nothing I could have done wrong. I'm just being taken advantage of, right? Not to say it's okay to be abused, but what I've observed sometimes with people like writing this kind of stuff, it's kind of like they didn't really do what I want, so they're a narcissist. They didn't love me the way that I wanted to, so they're a narcissist kind of situation, which is a little bit different than like actual abuse or anything like that. But anyways, I've been pondering this for a little bit, and I don't think it's a bad thing, because I do think that one of the first steps to healing is recognizing the things that don't serve us and kind of getting mad about it. Like, I really think the 5 stages of grief go with like all kinds of healing. And one of the big stages of grief when it comes to healing our relationships, I think, is sometimes realizing people who have mistreated us and just getting like kind of pissed off about it. And it's a stage and it's important. But the problem is, because of the experiences that we had, because we've healed, because we don't want to repeat them, sometimes when we're still in that unhealed state, we really go into that fight or flight mode with everything. So we're constantly on guard. We're hyper vigilant. We keep looking for every single sign that somebody's going to hurt us again so that we can bolt the second that it happens. Because we're in that like increased state of awareness. We're hyper vigilant. And that's an okay state to be in. That's not a judgment. It's not saying get out of it if you're not ready, because it's a stage of healing. But as we heal and as we move a little bit forward, those behaviors that we use to kind of allow ourselves to protect ourselves from people who've hurt us in the past, they stop serving us, right? And here's why. Because a lot of times we might be triggered by a very small detail that reminds us of someone or something that might not match up to the reality of what the person is. This is not saying ignore red flags in dating either. This is a different thing. Sometimes we might start putting up walls very, very quickly instead of letting someone in, no matter like if it's a friend or a family member or just somebody in like a group on Facebook. If somebody reminds us of the people who've hurt us, then we're going to just put up like this wall to protect ourselves. And like I said, that's okay. You don't have to let any energy into your life that doesn't vibe with you. However, if we're going into this fight or flight where we're like judging really harshly, or like kind of like putting it into this, I'm this like pure being who has been screwed over so many times and they're all narcissists who only care about themselves, we're kind of stepping into narcissist territory ourselves, when we're not really like looking at why other people might act the way that they do, and we're just concerned with our own feelings, our own well-being, and we're not really seeing like our own actions and stuff like that. It's okay if you're still there. I keep saying that, but I mean it sincerely. And the reason I'm saying this too is because whenever we start putting up these walls, we shut out all of the good that can come in with a person or with a situation. Boundaries are a little bit different, right? I'm not saying go out and just like tell your secrets to the first person you meet or any person you meet, especially if they have red flags, especially if their energy doesn't feel right to you. You need to trust your intuition. But the question that I'm posing here and what I'm really talking about is, how, once we start to heal and we're ready for this kind of like being close to people again, can we start to tell the difference between our wounds and our intuition? Because those are two different things. The fight or flight response that makes us want to run far away, that's one thing. That's our past. That's our trauma speaking to us, but it's not necessarily our intuition. Our intuition comes from very still, not emotional place. It comes from that place of calm. And sometimes our intuition is telling us something different than what our like fears are telling us, right? But it's hard because whenever we really like start seeing ourselves even getting attached to someone, if we've been hurt before, we just want to run away, because if we've been hurt before, it's like, oh God, if I get attached, then they can really hurt me, or they can run away from me, or they might like screw me over, or I've been hurt before and people have rejected me before. So if we get any closer, then they're going to see the real me, and they're going to realize that I'm not whatever they think they are, because nobody could possibly love me, because I don't love myself. And we throw up that wall, because then we're like, nope, I'm not going to get hurt again. I'm going to let you go. I'm not going to let you get hurt again. And sometimes we do this in ways that we don't even realize that we're doing it. I will say most of my life, I didn't even realize all the walls that I had up, or that I wasn't being authentic with people, you know, because for me, I kind of have, like, as you guys know, I'm like extremely hilarious. So since I'm so extremely hilarious and like humble and good looking and all that kind of stuff, like, it's because of that, I like kind of shielded a lot of my real personality and my real self underneath like this always like everything's cheerful, everything's fine, kind of like sense of humor where I just made jokes about everything. And there's nothing wrong with that. Laughter is an amazing coping mechanism. And humor really brings people together too. But I was never really kind of getting beneath a level of like superficiality with people, because I was really unable to trust people at that time. And I didn't even realize it, to be honest, because I thought that I was making friends. I thought that I was getting close to people, but I really had a lot of these walls up. And I really shut out a lot of good, and I was constantly feeling lonely because I had all of these walls up that I wasn't even realizing that I was putting up. And a lot of the thing that I saw in myself, and that I see a lot on like the internet today, especially, is there's a lot of people who are kind of like, those people are like the normie, not troubled people. I'm like this different category of person who doesn't fit in. And my question is, did somebody else put you in that box? Did somebody else put you in that category? Or did you put yourself in that category as a way to put up walls between yourself and other people? That's something that I did. It was like, I'm like a different kind of person. Like, I've been through all these experiences that nobody else could possibly understand. And these are ways that we can kind of put up walls and separate ourselves from other people that prevent us from allowing to get close to people. And we might not even realize it. Even the people that we have in our life, we might not be able to tell our true feelings or our true self. Or in relationships, we might end up just kind of like putting on a role, like kind of like we talked about in the non-attachments, where the idea of what the person should be to us, or the idea of what that relationship should be to us, is something that is more our reality than like us just being authentic people in the present moment with other people. Or we just run completely because we're scared of being heard. And there's so many different ways that we put up these walls. And when we put up walls, we shut everything out. We shut out the good. We shut out the bad. We shut out everything. So yeah, we're protected. But then the next thing you know, we end up being really, really lonely. And, you know, a lot of us talked about building better relationships over the beginning of this course, and how we can begin to build better relationships. I would really recommend for all of us, see if there are any places that you're putting up walls between you and other people where you're afraid of being authentic, because you cannot connect to people authentically if you're not being authentic yourself. And that takes vulnerability. It takes vulnerability to be able to be vulnerable with yourself. I don't know why I keep losing my voice. I'm sorry. It keeps happening. But I'm still going to talk because the message must be said. So that's something that's really important, and I think sometimes gets unsaid, is in what ways are we putting up our own walls? In what ways are we not being authentic? And what ways are we not able to really just be real with people? And what ways have we put ourselves in this other category that prevents us from really having that deep, intimate connection? And if we're feeling lonely, is it because we're separating ourselves in our own way? Are we running away at the first sign of trouble? Now, this takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of vulnerability, and it's not one of those things that gets healed overnight. So I'm not expecting anybody to hear this live and then like go out and change everything and just be vulnerable with people. But that's why I wanted to talk about boundaries. Because if you're scared, if you feel like you're unable to protect yourself from people, if you do find that you do have this like fear of being able to get close to people, and you have those walls that you put up, that's where boundaries come in. nobody is saying that you need to like go out and just like tell your deepest, darkest secrets to the first stranger you see. Not everybody deserves every part of us. Not everybody is meant to see every part of us. And a lot of times we have to wait until we build up a little bit of trust with somebody to get to that level. Plus, sometimes they can make people uncomfortable if we kind of like dive right in because we don't have that level of like rapport built. So it's really important that we kind of have these boundaries where we're allowing people to kind of come in a little bit at a time, but we do have that safeguard in place. We do have that separation between us and them, and the realization that, you know, we have to make people earn our trust. And the reason I want to talk about that is because in a way, it is that protection for you. It is that protection whenever you do have walls up. You're not leaving yourself exposed. You don't have to leave yourself exposed. The best way to have good relationships with people is to have those boundaries. And I'm talking there specifically about new people and the new people that we let in. But we can have boundary issues with people who we have been in our life for a really long time too. You know, perhaps we have too strong of boundaries with somebody that we're close to and we wish that we were closer. But it can be the opposite too, where we don't have strong enough boundaries with some people and we end up like doing things that we don't want to do, and we end up like feeling resentful of the person because we feel responsible for them for some reason. Or maybe we're constantly trying to help someone else and we feel responsible for their feelings even though it's their life, because that's something that can happen too whenever you've been wounded in relationships where you feel like you have to earn your keep, and to earn your keep you have to be everything for everybody. And the thing is, that's not really a true authentic relationship either if you're having trouble with feeling resentful, if you're feeling unappreciated, because you're carrying someone else's burden and you have that boundary. So in that way, you can almost be closer with people if you allow yourself to have better boundaries and not carry on those burdens with people, because it gives you the opportunity to say no to the things that would make you resentful, so you can come into the relationship in a more authentic place, and that you can come to a relationship in a way that suits both of your needs, where you're not trying to earn your keep. So that's kind of a lot. I know I said a lot, and I know it's a little bit difficult. I hope that makes sense. I do. I might kind of talk more about some of these different pieces as we go throughout our last week, because I know so many people wanted to work with being friends. But like I said, this kind of healing doesn't happen overnight. It really takes a really strong, good sense of self, a really good, strong sense of self-love to be able to build the kind of like boundaries in relationships with people where you stop being afraid of them, where you stop being afraid that you'll lose somebody, so you might overperform in a relationship, so to speak, where you're kind of taking on more than your share of the load, almost because you have to like prove yourself, or you feel like if you don't like make yourself extra special and nice and kind, then people aren't going to like love you still. It takes a strong sense of self that also allows you to be rejected if you get vulnerable. So self-love is the beginning to all of this. Self-love is the beginning to all of these relationships, and strength in yourself, and that knowing of your worth outside of what anybody else thinks, because other people are allowed to be wrong. But like I said, these are just things that I've noticed and that I really I will dig into a little bit deeper as we go throughout the week. Because I feel like it's beneficial, and I don't know, I just feel like somebody needed to hear this message today. I don't know who it is. So don't feel like this is this big scary thing you have to run from either. It's really a matter of starting to work on self-love, and then starting to notice the things about yourself and the places in your life where maybe your relationships are lacking a little bit, or maybe you have been isolated from people for so long that you don't understand them anymore, so you don't understand their body language and social cues. So it's easier to say, I'm like this separate category of person and I'm not normal and could never be normal, and I could never fit in with other people, because honestly, none of us are normal. Like, it's really like, it can be hard whenever you've been through some stuff that other people might not understand, and not everybody's going to match your vibe. Not everybody is going to be good friends with you. Not everybody is for you, and that's okay. But there is a group of people out there who is waiting for you. There's a group of people out there who would love you perfectly the way that you are, and they're weird in the same ways that you're weird, or at least weird in a way that's complementary to you. It's just a matter of kind of doing that self-work to be able to get there, so you can have those deep, authentic relationships, and that you can get there. So that's kind of like where I wanted to go with that. And then I kind of started talking about the narcissist thing. I'll talk about that a little bit later too. But it's really like, it kind of comes to like getting out of your own drama and your own shit and kind of looking around and seeing that most of people are actually struggling more than we realize. So if you feel isolated, if you feel insecure, if you feel like you're not confident, if you feel like, you know, you're having all of these issues, I know that sometimes we can kind of be down on ourselves and look around and think, I'm so different, like everyone else is doing great, and I'm sitting here and I feel like I'm struggling so much. But really, we're comparing everyone else's highlight reel to our like worst day of our lives. So kind of remember that, because the things that people might be sharing with us aren't necessarily their internal experience. And I feel like there might be some lucky people out there, I haven't really met them, who kind of really genuinely have it all together, and have never gone through this period of not feeling like they had it together, at least. But I doubt it. I really think most of us are just doing the best that we can and kind of struggling through life. And I think once we see that and we're able to have more compassion for other people, it really allows us to kind of open up to our genuine selves and allows us to be there instead of kind of othering other people too, because we're so scared of being rejected. Oh, they're just a narcissist. Oh, they're just a normie. Oh, they're just somebody who I couldn't possibly relate to because they fall into X category. And this othering really brings us apart from people, and it makes us feel lonely and isolated too. So I'll leave you with that. Like I said, it's a lot. I'm planting some seeds, not something that has to be implemented right away, but I did feel like somebody needed this today. So whoever needs to hear it will watch it at the moment that the time is right. And I trust that.